Supply-wise today is, once again, your trusty Elmer's glue or white glue of some type. And then I have 3 types of salt. So right here is just like a iodized table salt, Morton salt, that I have for one variety. And you could do it just with this if you just have some table salt, that'd be fine. I also brought in, I like this for geodes, it gives kind of that crystallized texture a little bit more, is a rock salt. An ice cream salt would work well for this if you have that, or even, this is water softener salt that has kind of that thicker, coarse texture. And then finally, I have a little bit of like a coarse sea salt because it just gives you a little bit more texture. You can tell I was super patient with my salt grinder this morning of grinding it. I only have a little bit of that, but you'll get a little bit of a thicker salt particle to put in that. A Himalayan sea salt would also work. The pink might be really pretty in creating the thing. So I have my glue and my salts, and then you're just going to use a standard watercolor palette. I have a very tried and true watercolor palette right here, a Crayola water palette. Ooh, and I have watercolors on the loose, or a rose art, or anything that way would also do just fine. And then I have some liquid watercolors as well that I'm going to be using. So I really like geodes. Geodes are a fun one for science integration as well. There's a lot of great YouTube videos on, and you'll obviously need some water for watercolor, but there are some great science integration videos about how geodes are created and what they are on YouTube that you could do. So there's some fun science integration for sure. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I think I'm going to work mainly in blues and greens in my geode. So I'm just going to start, I'm starting with a larger watercolor brush. I'm going to give my entire page just kind of the mid-tone of what I'm going to use. I'm just going to give it just a general color wash. And just kind of spread that out. You could use any type of paper. Probably if you have some watercolor paper, that would be preferable, but it doesn't really matter too terribly what color you use. I'm just going to create that wash, and you can even see there's not really a rhyme or reason to how I'm getting that color down. I'm going different directions, I'm spreading it out. You can kind of do that however. So I'm going to get that initial wash of color. Okay, then I'm going to think about kind of the shape of a geode, and I'm going to do a little bit more of that rounded, jagged piece, and I'm going to do that with my glue if this wants to, oh, there we go, disperse for me. If you're doing this with one of your kids, you could also put some glue in a bowl, as that might help with just kind of being able to put it on the brush. So I don't know if you can see sort of the start of my glue line that's just kind of going in a jagged pattern. And I actually am going to do that. I think that's going to be easier. I'm just going to pour some glue into my palette here. After I got that initial line, side to side, put my palette in, and I am going to dip into that palette, grab another brush, and just start to create that geode shape. Now I like the geodes that have a lot of crystallizing in the middle. So I'm gonna just put a ton of glue into kind of the middle of my geode. I'm gonna follow sort of the same line pattern that I did in my bigger geode outline. And just fill that all in. I don't know if you can see that, but just how I've got my glue pattern going. Now what I'm gonna do, I've kind of got my initial salt down glue. I'm thinking about the inside of the geode, which usually is a little more crystallized. I'm gonna start putting some of my rock salt. Once again, it could be any type of salt. Down and in, make sure that's sticking. It's adhering to the glue in the middle. Of starting to create that pattern. Then I'd even, if I'm working with a geode that it's most crystallized in the middle, I'm gonna come out from it a little bit. I'm adding some more glue. So I'm gonna do kind of the next layer of the rock formation as I'm getting out toward the exterior. So right now, just adding that glue all around it. And I'd say my sea salt is a little bit better texture for this next layer than my iodized salt. So I'm gonna add that in. And you'll be able to see a little bit better as I add the color into the salt. So just hold tight for a second. Then I'm gonna do another layer coming out from there even of glue from where I laid down my sea salt. And I'm gonna come around. Now I'm gonna add in my iodized, just Morton table salt. All in. Okay, and then I might just give that just a little bit of a shake, see where I have loose pieces. Okay, so I'm gonna think about what kind of geodes are interesting. You'll notice when you look at a geode, either they're really dark in the middle and they kind of fade to a lighter pattern, or a lot of the times they'll start darker in the exterior and fade to light. So I am going to do, I think, a lighter to a darker geode pattern. So I'm going to take my watercolor brush and I'm going to dip into one of my watercolor pigments here. This is a liquid watercolor. And I'm just going to gently start to tap the rock salt. I'm going to really let that liquid get in. I might even just let it drip a little bit and let it start to bleed through my salt. I'm just letting that, and start to see if you just kind of tap the brush, the color is going to move through your salt pretty organically anyway. So I'm just adding in those blues. Letting it kind of move through all of the salt. Start to get, hopefully you can see that pattern. And I'm going to add some green as well, because with geodes they're obviously different colors. Different things, and I'm going to start to add maybe a little bit of this green pigment into a little bit of my rock salt exterior. I'm kind of mixing that up. And a little bit more water, and then I'm just kind of letting some of my green pigment. And don't worry if you're picking up salt as you're adding color. That's pretty natural that some of it'll stick. And move throughout. And I'm gonna just keep adding my salt and my color. You can start to see the green forming around the geode. So I'm out kind of now to the thinner salt layer. I need to add just a little bit more to my rock salt in the middle. I'm out to this next layer, and I'm going to come through, I think I'm going to come back into this palette a little bit and add a bit of a softer touch. And I'm just going to kind of let that color bleed through. My geode, I might, you can see I'm kind of using a tapping pattern that creates a little bit more of that rock-like texture. I might kind of do more of a sweeping pattern down here where I have less salt. To create that. So I'm coming through. And the fun thing with this is you can just continue to add color, continue to add salt, whatever you would like to do. So as I'm getting out closer to my exterior of my geode, I'm going to show you one of my other favorite things, which is just mixing glue and watercolor. I'm going to take a line of glue. You'll also notice kind of on the exterior of the geode, it's going to be very, very smooth, typically. You have kind of that smooth rock pattern. So I am just mixing a little bit of watercolor with my glue and then smoothing that to the outside of my geode. And you could keep it all on the page in the shape of a geode. You could take it to the very edge. So I'm mixing that glue and watercolor. I could just put down a line of glue all around. Let's see, I've got it going right here where I'm smoothing that glue mixture with the watercolor to give me kind of that smooth exterior that you'll see a lot of the time when looking at a geode. Okay, and then I think I'm going to take it all the way out, and I'm going to add some of that bluish green where I have almost a really dark pigmented on the edge, really dark blue.